Thanks everyone. I'd just like to welcome Nora Bateson onto the stage and thank her for coming all the way from Sweden and joining us for today.
I have this thing that I've written here. I never do this written thing though, so I'll just phase in and out of it. I'm struck by this day, Imelda, in the celebration of how profound life is and how a life profound is a life shared. It's really something to have an opportunity to be in this room. And I thought, well, I'll save the meta stuff for the end of this talk. But no, I don't think we have to save it for the end. What does it feel like to be in this room? What does it feel like to be in a community of people in which this is what's possible, in which this is what a life of giving comes into? You've chosen good friends, and we've chosen you. And Gail, you know, this is extraordinary. What's happening here with this gift that you're giving your friend is an incredible healing that spans through this community and beyond. Right, where is the edge of Imelda? Maybe in the Kleenex. But here we are, and we're talking about all of this systemic work, and the, oh my God, the bravery and the frustration and the subversiveness and the rebellion that it has taken to hold open a context for the context. So that the little things that get done, that respond to other little things, that come into life in other little ways, that move across communities and families, that those things can be healing. Because we know what it's like to live in a world in which those decisions are harmful, in which the consequences of consequences hurt, and they get tangled and damaged and lost. But this is what it feels like when the consequences of consequences are healing. Congratulations. That's beautiful. So I wrote you this thing, now I don't know, but here we are. Dear Imelda, friends of Imelda. The first thing I'd like to say is that this is not the last thing we're going to be doing together. Life is non-linear, and even though knees get creaky and travel is troublesome, your explorations of the heart and mind are nowhere near done. On the contrary, the depth and breadth of your work have only just begun to merge. The colorations and the yarn are richened by the time spent marinating in your particular alchemy. So no, not for 1 second is this Festschrift to be considered a retrospective. We are here not to sum up your deeds, Imelda, but rather to bathe in the particular tones and rhythms with which you have approached whatever was set before you. What is past is prologue, said William Shakespeare. And in that same flip-flop of the timeline, it makes perfect sense to say that you have been an elder probably since you were very young. And you're really quite good at it. Remarkable. And what is the art of eldering? This seems to me to be an important question now. Of all moments in history, this one in particular puts the elders in the hot seat. What has come before has let us down. Our trusted institutions have colluded, at least accidentally, if not more cynically, to justify exploitation of humanity and of the natural world. And we are living in the consequences of those consequences. We who are comfortably here in this room are reaping the benefits of that exploitation as we sit here today. We would like to think of ourselves as good people, helpful, healing, with integrity, but we are spiders in the web. And in that sense, the elders are tasked with a double duty. Show us, please, how to do life, and show us, please, how not to do it like the generations before have. To live in a new way, to experience and to make sense in a new way, to find new language, to make new responses, to change the patterns, because the patterns are changing anyway. Who are we in these changing patterns? Where is the art of responding? Now there's the need for heart, for calm, and for rigor, right alongside rebellion and disruptive lostness. We need elders with the wisdom and depth that familiarity comes with the necessary pain and confusion of a lifetime, and the fire in the belly of passionate resistance. We need you to know and not know, and to share your hard-earned insights at the same time that you are with us, not knowing where the hell we're going or how the hell to get out of this mess. Ever rebalancing between meditation, intellectual pursuit, and emotional juiciness. Imelda does a good job of keeping this gig of being an elder real. I love it when you get mad. And when you cry and you curse your lovely Irish cursings as you shake your fist at the world, those are the moments when I know I have chosen well to trust you. Imelda keeps us warm in the stories that plunge to the earth's core, but she takes us there barefoot. To walk on the molten future, we must meet and fecking feel it. I like that. Never once has Imelda told me everything would be okay or to look on the bright side. Things are not okay. And in this moment, the need to show up is as keen as it can be. And remembering the systems theory, the complexity is lurking. This molten future, this passionate rebellion, is not the same thing as taking a stand. No, it's not so easy as that. Whose stand should one take now? In an era scarred and cracked along polarizations, one must be wickedly careful about adopting other people's old scripts. Tempting as they may be. The left is ranting in tired prose, and the right is vomiting toxic metaphors, and now we cannot be silent, but we cannot fuel this polarity either. We're in a double bind, which is to say, which way to turn? Where is the new discourse? Well, it's in the 5th province, where the paradoxes have room to breathe. Yes, we need really, really excellent elders We need help learning the difference between taking a stand, which increases polarity, and being in a stance, which allows us to meet the complexity and surprise it with new questions. The first time Imelda and I were on stage together, we were at EFTA, and we tried to prepare, you know. And so we were thinking, well, we're gonna bring Bateson back into the European Family Therapy Association. We started having these conversations, and we were like, well, you know, the most important thing that we could really be talking about right now is the difficulties of conscious purpose. For those of you who've read your Bateson, you know that this piece is particularly challenging, and there was no way in hell that was going to go over at EFTA. It was one of those things where it was like, okay, but how much time do we have to actually explain Bateson's theories on conscious purpose? And I don't actually remember what we talked about, but I do remember this, is that eventually it was about conscious purpose, surreptitiously. And I was on stage looking over at Imelda, and she starts talking about the consequences of the consequences. And in this case, of course, we were talking about, you know, the limits of diagnosis and the pharmaceutical responses, and how there was, these consequences were built into different ways of epistemological framing and so on and so forth. And you all know all this stuff, so I don't really have to go into it. Isn't that great? We're in a room full of people who you can just say that to. But there was this sneaky thing happening in that moment. And earlier today, someone mentioned that Imelda takes pleasure in rising other people up. And she did that for me in this really beautiful way that was so warm and so real. And what you did was simply invite me to be by your side. And you trusted me to show up, to meet you in the complexity, to meet you in the intellectual rigor, to match and to be there with you in the emotional plunges, to be sensitive to the context with you. And this was done without ceremony, without agreement, without any explicit instructions, without any direct conversation of these are our rules of engagement. This was just the fabric of what our communication would be like, of how we would be in relationship. And being here today, what I see is that you have done that and done that and done that. And the webs that this spider has been weaving are another set of webs to be in. And we are all so fortunate for your support. So if this is some measure, thank you, Gail, and all the people who put this together, of what it means to support the support. May your cup be full. We love you.